I'll tell of the Magna Carta, as was signed at the Baron's command on Runningmead Island in middle at Thames by King John, as were known as Lackland. Some say it were wrong of the barons their will on the king so to thrust, but you'll see if you look at both sides of the case that they had to do summat or bust. For John, from the moment they crowned him, started acting so cunning and sly. Being king, of course, he couldn't do wrong, but by gum, he'd a proper good try. He squandered the ratepayers' money. All their cattle and corn he did take, till there wasn't a morsel of bread in the land, and the folk had to manage with cake. The way he behaved to young Arthur went to show us his feelings was bad. He tried to get Hubert to poke out his eyes, which is no way to treat a young lad. It were all right his being a tyrant to vassals and folk of that class, but he tried out his tricks on the barons and all, and that's where he made a faux pas. He started bombarding their castles and burning them over their heads till there wasn't enough castles left to go round, and they had to sleep 6 to a bed. So they went to the king in a body, and their spokesman, Fitzwalter by name, he opened the hole in his helmet and said, conciliatory like, "What's the game?" The king starts to shilly and shally. He sits and he haws and he hums, till barons in rage started gnashing their teeth, and then with no teeth gnash their gums. Said Fitz through the hole in his helmet, "It was you as put us in this plight." And the king, having nothing to say to this here, murmured, "Leave your address and I'll write." This angered the gallant Fitzwalter. He stamped on the ground with his foot and was starting to give John a rare ticking off when the hole in his helmet fell shut. "We'll get him a Magna Carta," said Fitz when his face they had freed. Said the barons, "That's right, and if one's not enough, get a couple and happen they'll breed." So they set about making a charter. When it finished they'd got it drawn up. It looked like a paper on cattle disease or the entries for Waterloo Cup. Next day King John, all unsuspecting and having the afternoon free, to Runningmead Island, had taken a boat and were having some shrimps for his tea. He'd just pulled the head off a big un and were pinching its tail with his thumb when up come a barge load of barons who said, "We thought you'd be here, so we've come." When they told him they'd brought Magna Carta, the king seemed to go kind of limp, but minding his manners, he took off his hat and said, "Thanks very much. Have a shrimp." "You'd best sign at once," said Fitzwalter. "If you don't, I'll tell thee for a start, the next coronation will happen quite soon, and you won't be there to take part." So they spread charter out on tea table, and John signed his name like a lamb. His writing in places was sticky and thick through dipping his pen in the jam. And it's through that there Magna Carta, as were signed by the barons of old, that in England today we can do what we like, just so long as we do what we're told.